Alright, we left off on number 16. We're now on to 17. I already kind of set this one up. From over here, we're using again SOHCAHTOA. I have it up here at the top. We have opposite and adjacent we're interested in, so we're going to use tangent OA. So tan of 54. You always take the tangent sine or cosine of an angle. Tan of 54 equals opposite x over adjacent 9. This is what we call the calculator ready form. Okay, it's solved for x, and then when we plug it in, we get about 12.4. So make sure that you guys are doing the calculator ready form, because if you're not, then you're not going to get credit for that on the test. Okay, so let's look at our next one here. We have our eyeballs up here. I have opposite and I have hypotenuse, so this is going to be OH. So I take the sine of 46 equals opposite over hypotenuse. Now when x is in the denominator like this problem, what I have to do is just switch these two with each other. Okay, so sine of 46 is going to switch with x. So I get x equals 24 over sine of 46. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and always box in blue my calculator ready form so you guys can see it. And then my answer, once I plug it into my calculator, is going to be 33.36. And I'm just going to round from now on to the nearest 100th decimal spot. So that's the second one. Okay? Alright, next up, again, I'm going to write SOHCAHTOA at the top of my page so I can reference it. You might not see it the whole time, but it's up there for me. I have my eyes up here. I have from the 27, I have opposite, and I have adjacent. That's going to give me tan of 27 equals 13 over x. Again, x is in the bottom. OA, that's why I did opposite over adjacent. So these are going to switch, so my calculator ready form is going to be x equals 13 over tan 27. And so I'll put that in the calculator ready blue. And then Mr. Smith will go ahead and divide this real quick. And we should come up with 25.51. Next, always put the eyes on the angle that we have or is in question, never the 90. We don't have opposite, we have hypotenuse, and we have adjacent. So I'm going to be using the cosine of 35 equals adjacent A over H, 21. Multiply the 21 out. So x is going to equal 21 times the cosine of 35. Calculator ready form right here. Go ahead and throw that in my calculator really quick. We get 17.20. Moving up. Okay. My eyes are up here at the x because that's the angle I'm curious about. I have opposite and I have adjacent, so I'm going to use tangent of x equals opposite over adjacent. Whenever I have the tangent, cosine, or sine of x, the variable, I need to use the inverse tan, inverse sine, or inverse cosine. So this becomes x equals the inverse tangent of 13 over 10. There's my calculator ready answer. And throw it in the calculator really quick. And we get 52.43. And we are just cruising right along. Okay? Put my eyeballs down here, eyes on the prize. I have opposite and I have hypotenuse. This is going to be sine of x equals opposite over hypotenuse. Make sure we're doing the order correct. Again, we're taking the sine of a variable, so we got to go ahead and do inverse sine of 23 over 24, and that's what x is going to equal. Calculator ready forms right there. Go ahead and throw this in the calculator. And we should get 73.40. Okay. Next one. Eyes up here. We have opposite and hypotenuse again. So we're going to get sine of x equals 30 over 39. X will then equal, got to take the inverse sign again, 30 over 39. So this is very similar to the last problem. Calculator ready is right there in blue. Throw it in the calculator. And we get 50.28. Okay. Now these next one, they're just having us practice this, and so we'll go ahead and practice that together too. So if I have cosine of x, I'm going to take the inverse cosine to get rid of it, so that means x will equal the inverse cosine of rad 2 over 2. Now if you do this correctly in your calculator, you're going to come up with 45. Okay, and the real reason why you're going to come up with 45 is because, well, this is very similar to our 45, 45, 90 sides if you look at the ratios. But also what you need to realize and recommend, make sure you use parentheses when you're putting this in your calculator so you don't accidentally make a mistake. Okay? And then you're going to take the inverse tan of 0, which is going to give you 0, which is not that exciting, but that's what you get. Okay, so these are just taking the inverses and putting them in your calculator. So we're going to take, I'll write them all out, but we got the inverse sine of 0.8660. So it's just literally just plugging it all into your calculator. And then we get 59.99. I'll just leave it like that instead of rounding because then it would go to 60 basically. But so it's essentially 60 degrees. This is going to be cosine of -1, 0, so the inverse cosine of 0, which is going to give us 90. And then the inverse tan of 0.7536. And that's going to give us 37 approximately. Okay? Alright, this next one is just trial and error. If 37 is here, this is 53 here. So you just check to see if they would work. So up here I take the sine. That's going to be opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite of 37 is not BC, so that can't be true. Sine of 53, opposite is BC, which that's not true. Tan should be opposite over adjacent. Opposite of 53 is not 7.8, so that's not true. And last but not least, sine OH, opposite of 73 is BH, and the hypotenuse is 13. That's the only one that makes sense. So you just use your trig ratios to see if you can make sense of it. Now these two problems I did in class a lot, so I'm just going to kind of throw them together pretty fast. But basically I have a surveying tool and I have a courthouse. And they're approximately 210 feet away from each other. Whenever I'm doing angle of elevation, you got to remember that I am going to need to remember that it starts with a horizontal line. So the surveying tool looks straight across and then increases its angle upward. So here's the 37, here's the 210, and here's x. This is 10 feet down here. Meaning once I solve for x, I need to go ahead and put 10 feet back onto it because the surveying stick is 10 feet in the air. So this is going to be from the position of sine, I have opposite and I have adjacent. So I'm going to use tan of 37 equals opposite over adjacent. Multiply that 210 out. So I get 210 times tangent of 37 equals x. Throw that in our calculator. I get 158.25. Then I have to add 10 feet, so I get 168.25 feet. And again, it's very important that I add that 10 feet because the building is the whole thing. I only found that upper piece, then I had to add the 10 feet on that was basically taken out by this guy in the beginning. Okay? A 30-foot ladder is resting against a wall. Okay, so here is a wall. Okay, a ladder, last time I checked, is going to be resting against it will be diagonal. Okay? The ladder itself is 30 feet. It says it's 24 feet off the ground. That doesn't mean the ladder is hovering. It's making sure that you realize that you're talking about the 24 feet off the ground means the top of the ladder is hitting 24 feet. And I ask you, what angle does it make with the ground? So from this angle I'm looking, I have opposite and I have hypotenuse. So I'm going to use sine of x equals opposite over hypotenuse, which means x is going to equal, I have to use inverse sine of 24 over 30. And I'm going to go ahead and plug that in my calculator, but this would be a calculator-ready answer. And I get 53 degrees, or 53.13 degrees. Okay. All right. On to the back, law of cosines and sines. Okay. Law of cosines is what it tells me to use. I want to find x. So I always start with the angle it's opposite. So I get actually cosine of 48. On the other side, I'm going to get x squared. Then I fill in everything else with these two pieces. Now my equation is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times the cosine of big A. Notice big A is opposite little a, just like 48 is opposite the x in my picture. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill in what I know. That's 15 squared plus 19 squared minus 2, 15, and 19. Okay? Alright, I'm going to go pause the video real quick and do some quick math here. Boom! Okay, so I did it. Isn't that fast, right? Okay, so first I evaluate this piece. I get 586. I evaluate 2, 15, 19. That's 570. Cosine 48. Make sure you put this all in your calculator at once and put parentheses around here to do that part first. Don't subtract these two numbers. If you do that, you're going to get it wrong. Okay, I saw a lot of students do that. They subtracted these two numbers and got like 16. And then you can close 48. It's not going to give you the right answer. So throw that in your calculator, you get 204.59. Take the square root of it, you get 14.3. Okay? This next one's going to have us use law of sines. So we'll go ahead and set up law of sines. So I want to find x, so I'm going to go ahead and use its opposite angle. Uh-oh, I don't have its opposite angle. So to find its opposite angle, I need to use the two angles that I already have to find it. Okay? And once I do that, mathematically, I figure out that it's 79. Now I have its opposite angle. So I can take the sine of 79 over x. We always take the angle over the side equals, and this is going to be sine of 43, oh, can't use 43, sorry, 58 over 27. Okay? Now I'm going to do fast math. Ta! Okay, here we go. We did it all. So when we look at it, we go ahead and cross multiply. And then I need to get x on the side, divide by sine 58. So I end up with calculator ready version of 27 times sine 79 over sine 58. Plug it in, you get 31.25. Alright, let's set up the last two. This is again law of sines right here. We're going to use opposites. So when I'm setting this up, I'm going to get the sine of x over 37 equals the sine of 38 over 27. Okay, and again, let's go ahead and do some fast math. Blah. Okay, there we go, we got it. Okay, I cross multiply. I need to get sine x alone, so I divide by the 27. I divide it out, and then I'm left with sine x, so I have to take the inverse sine of all that. Okay, so here's the calculator ready. Plug it in, you should get 57.53. Okay, last problem, here we go. Sorry I'm kind of doing that. Those steps pass really kind of fast, so you guys can go ahead and see those later. For this problem, I can't set up law of sines first. I have to set law of cosines. I gotta solve for z first. Okay, so once I have z, then I can solve for the other one. So let's go ahead and set those up. So we're going to go ahead and get the cosine of 52, and then on the opposite side, I'm going to get z squared, and then I'm going to fill in the rest of the information. That's 23 squared plus 28 squared minus 2 times 23 times 28. Oh, that was a little too tight. Okay, let me go ahead and solve for that by plugging all this in my calculator and dividing by 2. Bam! Okay, so I put that in my calculator, I got 520.028. Then I'm taking the square root of it, and I got 22.8. Now what I got to do is I got to use law of sines. So to solve this, I'm going to actually get the sine of 52 over that 22.8 equals, and I'm going to find x first, so the sine of x over 28. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this fast math style. Okay, here's the finale. We basically get the sine of 75.4, or we get 75.40, add up it with 52, and subtract from 180 to get 52.6 for our final one. Alright guys, sorry that last part kind of went fast, but there you go. I'll see you tomorrow.